Hello everyone, Dolphin Oracle back again, and tonight I'm taking a look at the Antix Control Center, that wonderful little one-stop shop for most of your system settings on your Antix system. It's accessible either from the toolbar with the Antix Control Center here, the menu rather, or from the button bar, the little tool wrench. What do you get? You get the app for choosing your wallpaper. You get the app for changing your themes, your window themes and icon sets. You get links to your window manager settings for changing things like your menu or your toolbar or your what starts up when you install, or your special key combinations, and even the Conky window manager over here. Not window manager, the Conky system monitor. You can also get an edit system monitor button for editing Conky directly. These are great one-stop shops. Most of these items I've covered in my video on customizing your Antix desktop. Check it out. Under System, you get Manage Packages, which will open up Synaptic Package Manager. Configure System, which will bring up some interesting tools. Most of these will require your root password. These bring up some interesting tools concerning disk management and repairing grub and various other things. Help local options. Also, you get in similar manner, you get a Manage Users utility. You get an Edit Config Files utility here, or a shortcut that brings up the text editor with certain configuration files that you probably don't have to change very often. But that includes your repo source files, the slim.conf, that's the login screen configuration, the menu.lst file, menu.list, that is the grub menu, that's your boot menu, some keyboard functions, and your fstab, which is your your drives, your hard drives. You may not ever have touched those files, but it's nice to have a quick little reference to them if you want. You also get a link to a utility for changing your startup services. This will let you start and stop services if you find you need to start something that or that you need to not start something that you no longer need. This is the place to do it. Under Network, you get links to your various network utilities. The ones you're probably familiar with: YCD is the graphical utility, and Cine is the command line utility. Both very nice programs. You also get a link to the firewall utility for managing the firewall should you wish to turn the firewall on. It's off by default. Under Session, you get a change keyboard layout, change Slim background. That's just what it says. Slim is the login screen, if you will, and this will let you set a new background. Maybe you want one to match your current desktop. You get a set screen resolution utility. Again, most of these utilities, remember, require a root password, and this will let you do things like change your settings for your active monitors and such. Also handy for arranging your multiple monitor setups if you're into that. Editing login options will bring up one of the Antix utilities to change your default desktop system. Very handy if you decide you want to try a different setup and you don't like scrolling through the options during the Slim file. It handles that for you. Set Auto Login lets you choose a username to automatically log in all the way to the desktop. But Set Screen Blanking, my personal savior here. When I'm watching Netflix on full screen and my screen goes black, especially if you're on a laptop, this happens a lot, this will prevent that from happening. You turn off screen blanking, this turns it all the way off, and if you're watching your Netflix full screen or whatever you do full screen, your monitor is going to stay on until you tell it otherwise. On the Live tab, you get some tools for remastering and for saving and setting up live persistence options. Handy if you're running a live session, less so if you're running installed. Under Disks, you get the G-parted disk editor. You get a utility for moving your Antix ISO to a bootable USB stick. You get a mount box utility for mounting things that otherwise you can't mount. Mount box is great because it'll mount damn near anything, and even hardware that maybe your file manager won't mount for some reason. Occasionally I run into a USB stick that I got to use mount box to mount. It's getting less and less common. You got a backup system for imaging a partition. It's a little clunky, but you know what? It works. It's pretty handy for backing up a partition. You got back up your files, your system. It says back up your system, but handy for backing up individual file directories. This is a classic backup program. We'll do a separate video on this one of these days when I figure out how to make the scheduling work. But if you do a manual backup, it actually works great. And a utility for syncing directories. Runs a program called grsync, and this is like SyncToy for Microsoft, or like Dropbox, but doesn't go over the internet. It just syncs two directories either on your machine, or it'll also work over a network. In Hardware tab, you get a System Information utility. Handy for if you need to know a certain something about your system. Oh look, I'm using a Debian 7.2 operating system. Well, that's because I'm on Antix. You get a Configure Mouse utility, a Test Sound utility, Setup Printer utility. I don't have a printer yet, but you can do it here. Some printers I've found, particularly Brother printers, it's easier to do from the command line. I come to this later. But other printers you can install from here without any problem. And then you get the mixer settings. So there you go, the Antix Control Center, your one-stop shop for all your system settings. For tips, tricks, and how-tos, head over to antix.mepis.org or throw up a post at antix.freeforms.org. This is Dolphin Oracle signing off. Have a great night.